Thunderbolts isn't short on complex characters, but few have sparked the same level of unlikability and reluctant intrigue as John Walker. Walker was supposed to be the MCU's next Captain America, a mantle he eagerly took on and quickly stained. Walker certainly embodied the image of a hero with his rigid jawline and military honors. However, while Steve Rogers inspired trust, Walker did not. He's brash, self-righteous, and emotionally volatile. And yet, there's something undeniably compelling about his downward spiral. John Walker is the MCU's most unsympathetic character, but that may be why he's so interesting. John Walker is neither a traditional villain nor a fallen hero. He exists in a morally gray space that the MCU doesn't often dwell in. He's a man who stepped into a role that was never meant for him and tried to, and he did it all while insisting he was the good guy. That brand of delusion, entitlement, and self-pity doesn't exactly scream fan favorite, but it does make for a uniquely human and surprisingly captivating addition to the MCU. In The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, John Walker is introduced as the government's hand-picked successor to Steve Rogers. A decorated war hero with multiple medals, Walker is clearly no stranger to sacrifice or battlefield valor. But being Captain America is about more than credentials. It's about character, restraint, and moral clarity. Unfortunately, Walker never understood that. Initially, he tries to live up to the role, but cracks appear sooner rather than later. He's impatient, insecure, and deeply uncomfortable being second-guessed, especially by Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, two men who knew Steve personally. His insecurity escalates due to his repeated failures against the Flag Smashers, ultimately leading to the death of his best friend, Lamar Hoskins. Consumed by grief and desperate to assert control, Walker takes a stolen vial of the super soldier serum. He soon kills a Flag Smasher who was present, not the one who killed Lamar. He does it in broad daylight, with Steve's shield, and in full view of horrified civilians. In that moment, the symbol of Captain America is tainted, not by an enemy, but by the man meant to uphold it. There's a reason audiences recoiled from Walker almost instantly. He's not evil, but he's the kind of guy who thinks his resume entitles him to unquestioned authority. He has the potential to be a hero, but his worst impulses, pride, arrogance, and emotional fragility, always get the better of him. He couldn't handle not being special, and when that frustration boiled over, innocent people paid the price. Interestingly, Walker's outfit in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier has no white, as white represents purity in the U.S. flag. This choice was a subtle hint that Walker was not worthy of Captain America's mantle. Even after being stripped of the shield and dismissed from the Captain America role, Walker spirals further. He builds his own knockoff shield, insists that he is Captain America, and lashes out at anyone who challenges that delusion. By the time he reappears in Thunderbolts *, he's not just a disgraced soldier, he's a broken man clinging to a version of himself that no longer exists. One of the more quietly devastating aspects of his Thunderbolts * flashback is the implication that he's lost his family. He snaps at his wife, neglects his child, and seems utterly consumed by his own self-loathing. It's not hard to imagine that he drove them away, not through some dramatic betrayal, but through the slow, steady erosion of empathy that comes with untreated trauma and unchecked ego. That, in many ways, makes him even harder to root for. He did this to himself, and he still acts like the world owes him something. Still, there's something undeniably compelling about John Walker, precisely because he's so hard to like. In a universe filled with gods, wizards, and billionaires, he's just a guy who couldn't cope with being ordinary. His failures are painfully human. He grieves, he spirals, and he makes terrible decisions, not out of malice, but out of desperation to be considered good and heroic, even when he's clearly not. The flashback sequence in Thunderbolt *, induced by Bob's powers, shows a man drowning in regret. He's haunted by the blood on his hands and the family he's lost. The facade of control unravels, revealing underlying emotions of depression, grief, and potentially PTSD. He doesn't know how to ask for help, so he just keeps doubling down on the worst parts of himself. Walker isn't a role model. He's not even a cautionary tale in the traditional sense. Instead, it serves as a reminder that not every broken character needs to be redeemed with a grand gesture or forgiven with a witty one-liner. Some people are just messy, complicated, and difficult. Maybe in a franchise as shiny and heroic as the MCU, that's precisely what makes John Walker stand out in Thunderbolts*.